Hello everyone, I'm Dan Lutz, and I'm here with my co-host,
Tank.
And we're here on the front lines, in the battle against the deep state, the cabal, the Illuminonkeys, and all those that wish to enslave all of humanity for their own selfish reasons. How's it going, Tank?
Well, it's been a very full day. Lots of exciting stuff going down. So, I'm very happy that I guess I do have some information from Kim, so let me share this. 'Cause this could be important. As far as the stimulus checks go, I did ask Kim because tomorrow's supposed to be the big crunch that they're supposed to be put out. And I asked Kim about that. I'm like, should we be avoiding these checks? Because I don't want to be actively involved in selling the country out. So she said no, not at all. Basically, there was some funny business going on behind the scenes, but she was in the process of fixing it today. So that's good. That means she's involved. And that means that she must have made some arrangements to make sure that people got money. And then there was a report out there by Ben Fulford that was pretty extensive, and he was talking about, that it appears that the former First Republic was, reinstated, of the original organic constitution, and which undoes the, Masonic illegal constitution, whatever. And I asked her about that because some people had some questions about it, like as if President Trump they're all trying to claim now that President Trump isn't the president, right? They're trying to say that they put someone else in that position basically to be the new leader. And one group's trying to say it's the head of FEMA, but really it's Kushner who's running FEMA, which we reported a couple days ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
That Kushner tried to sell the country out for $2.2 trillion to provide the stimulus checks. Then, and I guess there's, someone else that is there as well, and basically Kim, she debunked all that. She said, look, it's the Order of the Black Sun, which is the Treasury, the BlackRock, what's the other one? BlackRock, not Blackstone, but the, what's that company called? Private military? Anyway, Aaron Prince's group.
Okay.
Blackwater.
Blackwater,
right? That's Order of the Black Sun versus the Rothschilds, which is the Federal Reserve and the banks, right?
Right.
Etc. Right. So these are your two groups, and she said basically neither one of these two groups give a damn whether we live or die whatsoever. I mean, actually, they don't care about saving any of us, and all they care about is exacting their control and imposing their league of death and whatever, right? So that's why, that's going on. So then you have Kim, and those of us aligned with Kim, right? Trying to, support that and get the truth out and really get people to realize that you really have one group at the top that is advocating for humanity, and most people don't even know who that is. So, basically, it looks like Trump, I think that perhaps he's had a bit of a revelation, if there was any doubt, when he finally started to catch on that, look, this is a genocidal agenda, dude. Like, wake up. Because obviously, they've decided to get away from the models you said, right? For Bill Gates.
Right. Yeah. Well, we can go over that as well if you want.
Sure.
All right. Well, all right. Let's switch gears here. Well, I'm going to share something with you and as well. You're talking about what about the stimulus checks coming through, right? So here's someone who got $8.2 million as a stimulus check. He went to the ATM to get out $200, and of course his balance left over is $8.2 million. So, yeah.
I think that's great. I think that's such a great standard.
I said it'd be really great if it's just Kim just like randomly throwing millions of dollars out into the world.
Yep. Well, I did have I had an 8.375, 8.324, $8,324,000 that was transferred to me from Kim, and Wells Fargo.
That was the amount, but he
stole it.
No, that's the amount right there. He just took out the, there were some withdrawals, so now it's left is 8.2.
Right.
I'm just joking.
Right,
Joking,
exactly.
just joking. Just joking.
Perfect. So yeah, I think that would be a fair. I think it'd be a fair stimulus check for us to expect.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I
don't
was.
expect, but I mean, yeah, you know what? That's great news, man. I hope they don't take it from them. I hope they just, let us stay there.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sure
it should be.
I'm sure they did that so they could steal money, right? They overplay it so they can say, oh, obviously we're supposed to get that. They pull back.
Well, so here's well, let's I think it's all right, but here's what the other thing we're talking about: the U.S. Surgeon General Jerome Adams drops Gates CDC WHO prediction models and starts using real data. So this is going to start.
The irony! Wow, you want to use real data, huh?
Yeah. So
that's a pretty big drop, don't you think? Gates, CDC, and the WHO.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good start. That's a good start.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's starting to move away, right? And it's going to start the opening up of things again. So to get away from this, also we'll just there's this one. This is Breitbart. There was a Breitbart that's saying the same thing, but this is you're more talking about the stuff that is going on in the WHO and that we're withdrawing from using or we're not going to be funding the WHO anymore, right? So we've been withdrawing from the United Nations, the different aspects, and even the World Trade Organizations as well, right? We want to get out of those, right? And that's why Trump keeps saying, well, now we're winning cases, right? So we're not leaving yet, but we're saying, hey, you've been treating us unfairly, right? So
yeah.
And, well, that's just there's a campaign question there. I guess there is some sort of online event for tonight at 8 p.m. I guess on the 14th. Maybe that's already passed. So where's the other one? Okay. Oh yeah, this is the same thing. They're talking about the CDC. This guy's very excited about it. He's another doctor. Now the czar. I was sharing this with Lisa because I said that they appoint a czar as the head of FEMA, because we're start talking about this idea that Trump has turned over control to the head of FEMA, right? And there's actually it basically says to appoint a czar, and so she didn't know what that was. But czar, sometimes spelled TSAR, is an informal title used for certain high-level officials in the United States and United Kingdom, typically granted broad power to address a particular issue. So in the United States, the czars are generally executive branch officials appointed by the head of an executive branch. So,
I have a theory about that.
Yes.
I have a theory about that. What if, because remember we put out the information, this was in reference to, I believe, the Stanford Act, right? The Stanford Act.
Yep.
That would basically end up putting FEMA in control, right? And that would have been bad, right? Because then President Trump would have been giving up power of the purse, and so we figured he wasn't going to do that, right? But then all of a sudden he got FEMA involved, and Kim said specifically, yeah, but he didn't give up that power. What if, because you got to think, all of these things, anytime there's a, something in place to give up control, it would always go back to the head, right? That's why they say, martial law. It goes to the individual with the highest level, the highest level authority, right? Which is actually Kim, right? If there's martial law, that would go back to Kim. So, in like manner, is it possible that if there's something set up to have FEMA take over the presidency, that the previous
we're going to connect the dots for any
previous comptroller actually set it up so that the czar is actually the czar, which would be Kim.
Oh, yeah. Well, I kind of thought that might be, not the way you stated it, but I kind of had a thought that wouldn't it ultimately be in the hands of the comptroller, right, or Kim. No matter
Right,
what,
right, yeah.
whatever the agency, whatever the GMO, no, not GMO. What am I thinking? NGO. It's pretty much as bad. Government, non-governmental organization, which all of these three-letter agencies are. Right, they're outside of the government. And they make themselves because they say agency, right? You know, they're part of the government, but they're actually just a corporation, a sub corporation. So in this case, we're like there's this video right here, which it's starts talking about, hey, Trump turned over, everything to FEMA, right? And it's a very scary video, right? Don't believe in QAnon, don't believe in this, and that we're doomed, right? Is the whole thing. So 10 minutes of going down that road, and she's pulling out some clips, really talking about what Trump is saying. And so I'll find one here, like right here, and then they like highlight the words again. Pull this up.
For 6 months. Now, with the understanding that after Trump signed the National Emergency Declaration, FEMA took over. Now, this is March 13th, 2020. Listen to what he's going to say now. This is right after he signed the National Emergency into effect.
It is only the beginning of what we're really doing, and now we're in a different phase.
This is only the beginning of what we're really doing, because what they're really doing is putting everything in place to start the New World Order.
Now we're in a different phase.
The different phase that he's speaking of is that he is no longer president, and he has given full power over to FEMA when he signed the National Emergency Declaration.
We had some very old and obsolete rules.
Those old and obsolete rules are also known as the Constitution of the United States.
That we had to live with. It worked under certain circumstances, but not under mass circumstances.
And
so anyway, so this is how it goes through the entire video, right? And it's really just taking what I think his words out of context and applying a certain meaning. And it's really all about scare tactics. It doesn't sound like to me when I hear Trump that he's given over power. Just in his press conference today with the task force briefing, he was basically when the press was saying about, well, the states can do what they want, and Trump would say, no, they're going to listen to me. It didn't sound like he's given up any power anywhere. So I think this is more of a scare tactic than anything, though I do know that there is that FEMA, executive order signed by Jimmy Carter, which everybody's been upset since he did it, right, in the 70s, right, and that this is but there are so many executive orders that came after that. Just think about this. If Hillary was supposed to be president, right, and all these things were set up for her, do you think she would be giving up power to FEMA? I don't
Nope.
see it. I don't see it at all. So, no. There's things that we don't know. But I think this is more of a QAnon hit piece, right? Them wanting to, knock QAnon out, saying, oh, it's, give suspicion to the QAnon movement, right? And QAnon is really just hitting its stride right now because of all the pieces that are now coming into place. I mean, the last, other than like the everyone like jumping to the conclusions on and giving out dates, and I was saying the dates of the 10th, right, and the 10 days of darkness and the 3 days of dark. I'm talking about it. I know that it might not happen because there's a lot of disinformation purposely given out through QAnon. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about it, right? But QAnon was basically bringing out, said, well, it's best not to speculate on the dates, right? Because it gives ammunition to the other side, and I get that, right? But I think for talking it out and being clear about it and say, listen, these are just possibilities. There is disinformation, but it does seem like it's saying this. I think that's good to lay that out for people to have that understanding that that's going on.
Yeah, this video as you watch it. It is such, I mean, it's really an unrealistic stretch, right? Now, they're doing this to combat people that keep pulling statements made by Bill Gates, which are clearly, you know, aggressive, egregious, eugenic, genocidal statements, reducing the population. He said, "Oh, we've had some success, increased child death." He says, right? Or produce child death. Things like it's like he's saying these things directly, and they're kind of trying to make it ridiculous.
They're parsing his phrases, right, and they're cutting out the context, right. So I listened to those phrases when he spoke them originally, right. This is not what he was saying, right, and so this is, as I said, I think this is just a QAnon hit piece. Is really what this is all about, and a Trump hit piece, which of course would be Q+.
Well, but now I will say this though. Here's something interesting, right? Now, so Anna von Reitz comes out with this article, and basically she acknowledges the New York Assembly. Right now, we just established the New York Assembly on Thursday, right? So that's pretty intuitive. That's pretty intuitive. Now, she brings up these points. Now, I don't know if this is accurate, but it does bring up an interesting idea that basically President Trump could write a letter to the New York Assembly. And actually, I was instructed, I was given some instructions on this, on how to do this, that we can write a letter to notice President Trump, right, of the New York Assembly, to actually invite him, to acknowledge him as the organic president of the Republic.
That's wonderful, yeah.
And that'd be a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let's move on that. I second that. Or did I first that?
So we're in that process. We're writing a letter in the Michigan State Assembly, the Michigan Assembly will acknowledge the New York Assembly. The New York Assembly will acknowledge them, and that, I guess, makes it more official. It's part of the process, right? So we're furiously putting the paperwork together to make sure that we have everything in order, all our ducks in a row, right? And ultimately, I would support that. I'd support President Trump being acknowledged as the actual president for the Republic. But I don't know if that's how it works, because in the Articles of Confederation, there is no president, in the original Constitution. So I don't know, it's not until they introduce the Bill of Rights in the, the second version.
I don't think that there's as much of a I understand what you're saying, and you're talking about, from the time it was, vacant, it started here and in there. It's not that things didn't happen in the middle, right? So things did happen, though it's not, it may not be official, but you're basically making that letter to acknowledge it. Would basically, maybe you have to acknowledge the both constitutions. Or at least acknowledge the understanding of what happened between the two constitutions, and then define it that way. Is the way I would represent that. You'd have to take those next steps, because there is, as you said, there's how do you get from point A to point B? All right, so now it's because you have this vacant period in between. So at the New York Assembly, seems about right. The place to.
And I'm for us, putting that kind of a force behind that. I mean, that would be a movement that would ignite every assembly in the country.
Oh yeah, you get every county engaged, every town engaged. Everyone would go ahead and get together in living rooms, and it could all be coordinated through Telegram. Yeah. There's the only safe medium that I can see that would be.
I mean, honestly, if you really consider that, I mean, that would, that would be an eruption. That would do something that no one has been able to do. Everyone has wanted to establish, the Republic, reestablish the Republic, restore the Republic, right? But that move, I really think maybe that's the key to everything. Everything can change just by us, by the president acknowledging the New York Assembly, acknowledging that he's born here with his birth certificate, you know, and we acknowledge him as the president for the republic. And then every other state can do the same. Then you have a president who, you know, is actually elected by the people, for the people, and of the people, right? What a difference! You know, that would give him power to literally do the things that all of us know should be common sense moves, right?
Right.
Like it's a common sense move that you're poisoning our water to stop that. You know, there's not like, oh well, there's a contract. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who loses his job. Stop poisoning the water. Are you killing people? Like stop that immediately. Right.
Right.
It's like you have people invading your soil. You don't like say, well, they do have the right to be here. They did get a permit. No, I don't care. They have a permit. You know, it's like they're killing people. Get them out of the park, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's where we are. I mean, I'm really hopeful that that's the reality. It feels like it's reality.
So one step and then the next, right? And just keep going, and then soon we'll be having every man, woman, and child understanding what's going on, right? They know they'll be clear about what is happening in the world, right? And they be able to look at that corporate governance, that fast food franchise that's been feeding us a bunch of garbage, right? To put it in perspective, right? So that's not the government. This is just a managing company, you know, since since a bankruptcy, you know, since or I don't even know if we call it the bankruptcy, where the comes about from the southern states walking out, you know, during the Civil War, because you know they're not in agreement with all these attorneys taking office.
Right? Well, you can't. It doesn't make sense. Like you're loyal to another. You're loyal to a king. You see, that's the thing that I don't really. You know, it's like the whole idea, the whole introduction of this stronger constitution is the Articles of Confederation. You know, every state was its own, you know, nation, right? So it's like you take that away. Basically, is what they did.
Yeah.
So the federal government would have more control, right?
Yeah.
So even the Bill of Rights, it gives power back to the federal government that they didn't have, you know, because there's plenty more rights that we have naturally. Just they're ours. We don't need permission to have, right? Like raising our kids. Supreme Court has held up many times. It's a parent's fundamental right for the care, custody, and control of their children. So to infringe on that right, because it's not stated exactly that way, is nonsense.
Yeah, this is talking about, you know, stamping on our rights. The governor of Virginia, they passed the gun control laws. They pushed them through during the pandemic. I don't know if you picked up on that yet.
Wait, what happened?
Governor Northam, however you say his name in Virginia, all right?
Yeah.
They were going to pass all these gun control legislation, but 30,000 people showed up with their guns and said no.
Yeah.
Well, they just pushed them through now during the pandemic.
Oh my gosh! What a shady move! That is where the militia in the assembly in Virginia. Oh my gosh! Get someone together, get a grand jury, and go take that man out of office right now.
Right now, yeah. No, they need to go. All of them. All of them that voted for it. All of them. Gone. This is. Now I want to use some choice words.
That is so shady.
That's shady.
He made it so everybody's quarantined until June 10th, with the elections on June 9th. That is so shady. I mean, it's like he's not even trying to hide what a scumbag he is, right? He's going to be wearing blackface when he does his acceptance speech. I mean, like, oh my gosh, it's insane. Like, we can't let this go on.
No, that's why the battle is not over, right? Where it's waging on. They're still pushing their agenda, right? And we have to really just stop it. Say no, sorry, no, not valid, right? We already stood up. You came in and during a pandemic when we can't come out and protest, and say we can't assemble now. Sorry, no, you're out. Just get out. Leave the state. You're banished from the state.
Well, I was just listening to some statistics, right? So if the pandemic, in many cases, is alleged pandemic, is 1/27th what they estimated according to the Gates numbers.
No, I'm going to pull up something. You go ahead. Tucker covered this today. Amazing. And actually, it's the number that I said. It was the actual death rate was going to be when I did a calculation. In the beginning of this. I mean,
0.2% or something like that, right?
Yeah, 0.02%. It's going to be
so they
something
estimate
very
this
low.
to be like 8%, right? 5, 3, 4, 5. It can be so deadly. It's going to spread so fast, so much worse than the flu. Not even close. Not even close.
Not even close.
So now, here is where people should start to have honest conversations, right? Because here in New York, New York is so tuned in to the frequency of fear, right? Because the grid here in New York is so strong, right? It's an overwhelming, electromagnetic rays. There's 5G everywhere. Whatever it is that they have this hold on New York, right? It's heavy. Now I know this because this weekend we went up to just outside of New York, right? Like just above upstate, like Bedford. We went hiking on this trail, and the energy was so different. I couldn't believe it. Which I've known that because I grew up upstate, but it was so refreshing. It's so healing. I was like, everybody needs to get the hell out of the city. If you're in any city anywhere, get out of the city. Find a way out. Don't believe the fear mongering that they have police, stops going on. That might happen 1 out of a million times, but I'm telling you, the roads are wide open. You can get anywhere in half the time. It's a great time to travel. It's like Sunday morning in the city. Anybody who's ever gotten up early Sunday morning to travel in any real city, the roads are always clearest Sunday morning. Because everybody's sleeping in, going to church in the afternoon or something. That's what it's like everywhere right now. It's a great time to travel.
Yeah. So I've got Tucker lined up, right? So we're gonna take a look. Let's get a little fair use warning right here, copyright disclaimer. There we go. We're discussing this. Here we go.
One of the scariest things about the Wuhan coronavirus, one of the many reasons all of us have long been so afraid of it, has always been how little we know about it. Ebola, malaria, cholera, obviously those are dangerous diseases. They've killed millions. But on the whole, we understand them pretty well, the fundamentals anyway. We know how easily they spread. We know how deadly they are. This disease, by contrast, is entirely new. It's literally a novel coronavirus. Early accounts of the mystery illness coming from central China could be transmitted far more easily than the flu, and that the death rate was remarkably high. Some reports suggest it could kill 2, 3, 5, even 8% of all those who got it. Worst case scenarios predicted millions and millions of people would die. The public was horrified. They still are. But how afraid should they be? Many people are still dying in this pandemic, including here in the United States. Beyond that fact, we still don't have the numbers we need to fully understand what's happening around us. Too few people have been tested. And yet, as of tonight, there are some suggestions of good news we want to bring them to. Here's one. Between March 22nd and April 4th, a total of 215 pregnant women delivered babies at New York Presbyterian Allen Hospital and Columbia University Irving Medical Center. Every single one of these women was screened for the coronavirus. It turned out that 33 of them had it. That's more than 15% of the total group. Of the infected, 29 of them, that's about 88% of them, were totally asymptomatic. So think about what that might mean if we extrapolated it citywide. As of April 4th, New York had more than 60,000 confirmed cases of the coronavirus and a little over 2,200 deaths. If more than 15% of New York's population was infected, that would suggest a total of 1.3 million cases in New York, with only about 150,000 of them showing symptoms. In other words, the virus would be far more widespread than we expected it to be, but also far less deadly than we expected. The actual death rate would not be 3 or 4%, it would be closer to 0.2%.
0.2%. So this is one of those times where you're extrapolating from what like one small case, right? It doesn't mean that it actually is this, but just if it was, the same percentage, that 15% of the general population already has it, but they have no symptoms. They're not ill, right? They just have this piece of genetic code in their body. So this,
You're right.
but the mainstream media and Fauci and the rest of them are pushing for testing. What if it turned out and said, oh, 1.5 million people have it, right? Would that make people frightened, right?
Yeah.
So they're pushing the idea of frightening people because that lowers your immune system. This is actually, Dr. Shiva.
Make people more susceptible.
Make them more susceptible
to dying from it.
Yeah, Dr. Shiva, he had a broadcast that he just did, and I was just listening to it today, saying there's a loneliness molecule, and this actually is something that they say that loneliness lowers your immune system. It actually makes you more susceptible to catching the flu. So if you're having this social distancing, right, and you now have more fear, it's also lowering your immune system. They're creating a system to make it more ripe for more people to be ill from this.
Yep. So, now I've been debunking and trying to debunk this every chance I get. Every piece of information gets out. We've been putting together, videos and just trying to really talk about the reality, right? I've gone to 2 of the major hospitals that are supposed to be ravaged with war zones, they said, war zone hospitals, and they were anything but a war zone. They were calm, they were controlling people, they had everybody outside. To be honest, the 7-Eleven and the local stores, they're much scarier to me, right? They've gone from like wearing masks to now they have full-on plastic gear up, right? They have, all the stores, like, you go in, they're keeping us energetically, making us afraid of each other. And not just afraid of each other, because most people aren't, those of us who aren't afraid, we just know that we can't get too close to someone else because we're going to scare them, right? Not that you would be up hugging people all the time, but just the fact that you want us separated so bad, right? And the CDC, I mean, this is really, I just hate, this organization to me is so disgusting. If there's any Nazi-run genocidal organization, it is the CDC.
Right.
They are the center for disease control, right? They control how the disease goes out. They control who gets it. They control where it's released, right? That's what they do. They are a specialty organization of a military-run society. That's the reality of what they are, right?
We need to have a new program, a new Operation Paperclip Extractor, and go in and find anywhere that these Nazi scientists are brought over and they infected the body politic and the apparatus of our governance, and remove it. Right? Regardless of what science that they were bringing over or anything, it doesn't matter. Their ideas are about death, right? And it needs to be removed. We're into abundance in life and longevity, and we don't need to be controlled by fear.
We're into the pursuit of happiness, right? So this to me is one of the final kind of nails in the coffin to me, as far as where people have got to wake up, right? Now, if you ever saw a natural childbirth, right, the way this is what would be the normal human practice. The baby would be born, and while the umbilical cord is still attached, would be thrown almost right up on the mother's chest, right? So that baby knows you're not alone.
Yep.
Immediately skin on skin contact, right? The fathers do the same thing. I did this with my daughter when she was born, right? Like literally laid her against my chest, while my wife was, recovering from surgery, right? Immediate skin on skin contact, so they know, and this is essential to the bonding we have, with our children, the philoprogenitive nature, natural love for our offspring, and to teach that child trust from that early. They absorb that, right? And the CDC, scumbag, horrifying monsters that they are suggesting that babies should be separated from the parents at birth to prevent the spread of the coronavirus.
Yeah.
That is the most absurdly ridiculous thing.
Yeah.
This pandemic, this scamdemic that they have going on.
That's a good name for it, scamdemic.
It has got to stop.
Hashtag scamdemic. Let's roll that one out.
So I really, we do have a team here, right? And there's some things that we're putting in place, and I'm actively going to start gathering data in all of the different hospitals to see what's going on, right? To just get it on record, because they're saying some hospitals are a war zone. That is a lie. I have been at 2 of the war zone hospitals, and there was nothing going on there. There was hardly even staff there. There was empty parking spots everywhere. There was nobody in the emergency room, nobody in the main lobby. There was nothing going on there, right? It wasn't the it wasn't the Outbreak version of the movie Outbreak, right? Like, it wasn't like that. So this has got to stop, right? It has got to stop now. So I know Trump is pushing to get the economy open back up, right? And get businesses open up, let people go out and circulate, because he realizes. But you know what? There is a part of this that is on Trump, because he played this, right? And he had to have some knowledge. He knew it was COVID-66.
Yeah, he had to do this. He had to go through with this because there was no choice. He wasn't going to be able to stop them from infecting the population, right? But knowing how these different strains of this particular virus, this China virus, would basically roll out, he was able to do some things. And the social distancing, we can handle it a couple weeks because nobody's dying, right? No, I'm sorry. There are people that are dying, right? I don't want to be insensitive to the people that have experienced loss. Really, I'm overgeneralizing, but it is people that are elderly or have some sort of immune system problem already, and but it's about their scare tactics. It's about inflating the numbers of the number of people that die. So it might not even be 0.2. It might be 0.02 when all is said and done. It spreads very quickly, but it doesn't really affect it. And this is, one of the things people are really, makes it more scary is that viruses are some sort of living thing invading you. Viruses are not alive, right? They use the terminology that kill the virus, and that it makes it easier for them to convey an idea. Is it the right idea or not? I don't want to say that, but it really is not alive. It's just a piece of genetic code that is surrounded by a protein. It's this protein in which it adds these markers or these receptors that they have now crisped in from HIV. And who's responsible and who was the ones where all the research are Fauci and that woman that's up there with her. I keep forgetting her name. And then there's 3 of them that are appearing up there on stage all the time from the CDC. And they're responsible for actually the research on this, if not the patenting of these particular markers. So they're looking at creating a very big worldwide problem that they end up benefiting from. Right? They have the patents. Yeah. So these guys are criminals.
Here's what this is my fervent belief, and I'll tell you what, if President Trump acknowledges the New York Assembly, and we are able to acknowledge him as president, one of the very first things we're going to do is we are going to address and say, this is an abject failure of the government to perform in the best interest of the people. The fact that these people are still free, we continue to blame China, which, don't get me wrong, China played a part. But it's not the Chinese government. They're trying to force us to go to war and get the American people to support it.
Yeah.
But in fact, the reality is, it is a civil war. It's a war that is taking place within our own country, within our own government, within our own minds.
Well,
Our heart and mind are divided against each other.
It's more than that. It's a worldwide civil war. All governments. That's why Trump keeps coming out. He's like 182 governments are now participating in the battle against the invisible enemy.
Yeah.
So this is a civil war, but the understanding of what that means, right, is elusive, because we've never been where we've known that this war has been in existence against us worldwide.
Well, and I love what this woman said, who was I don't even know what the interview was, but this was sent to me by my kind of backdoor contact with Trump's cabinet, right? Who works directly in the cabinet, right? And he sent me this video where this woman's being interviewed, and she makes some great points, because the guy's asking now, was this released on us as a biological weapon, right? And she basically, well, on December 15th, China signed a deal with the United States. The next day, the coronavirus was released. They downplayed, the damage it was having in Wuhan, but remember, we think that has to do with their phenotype, right? So their specific genetic coding, right? And that could have been overplayed. We don't know. So it started spreading. Now, their goal was to get the Corona 66 out, right? Which is basically going to react with sodium, which is everywhere, and it would have created these major numbers, so that they could cash in on the insurance policies for the pandemic and the bonds, I guess. And
I think that they actually needed to get the COVID-19 in place first in the population, as spread as much as possible, and then when they bring, and that leaves an open connector, right, for the COVID-22, because the COVID-22 is not very good at connecting, right? It can kill you. The lethal side of it is very high, but it can't connect. It can't spread. It needs to have that place to lock in, and that's the responsibility of the COVID-19, right? Is to get, so they had to use them in conjunction with one another. So that's why they needed to get this moved out, and that's why they can't get it to work efficiently, right, by itself. It's just that's always been the problem in any of these biological warfare things that they were coming up with. They couldn't get one to do everything, right? Everything the way they wanted. They had to basically play it like a tune, right? You had to send out this one, and it will start the process and lay the base, and then you bring in the next set of instruments, and you bring in the next one. So there's 6 different strains. What do they all do, right? They all probably had a different element, right? Even probably when you get down to where you actually have the war going on, they needed to also have the war going on. Is people going to survive this, right? But you throw them into a war situation, and then they're battling, and then you infect one side of the against the other, and you're controlling who's dying, right? So it's a very evil plot, right? And it's not something that it would naturally occur. It had to be designed, and it's failing on them, right? Trump's actions, even though yes, it's social distancing, it did play a part, right? So it actually worked. Him closing down the borders way ahead of time, it worked, right? So he's mitigated the damage that was going to be done to the population, right? So
yeah. I don't, honestly, it doesn't, every version of this, right? Because you feel like you have 2 groups that are plotting against humanity, right? The Black Sun and Washington. Now, they both have plans that are slightly different, right? But both of their plans served the master. So Trump, even in these things he's doing, is still kind of feeding into their plan somewhat, right? Like the wall. You know what? In part, like, as much as they want to fight the wall, they really just wanted to control access, right? They want that too. So there's a group that wants to control that. So all of these things are there. As much as he's doing the best he
Yeah,
He can, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's
But
walking.
he's definitely been misled along the way. He's not the absolute all powerful Oz genius that everyone's portraying, because we know that clearly there is missteps here. He's definitely had Now, I'm not saying that he hasn't had the best interest of people in mind. I'm saying that there's definitely missteps because he can't possibly have all the information.
Well,
Because there's people around him that are constantly deceiving him.
Well, I think
trying to.
Well, I agree that is occurring, though I don't know if they're quite missteps as well as if he did have the ability to have Project Looking Glass at hand. Whether it came from Tesla and there's a plan going back that far, and he saw and gave a roadmap or not, doesn't matter. But if he has Project Looking Glass, he can basically see what's coming one way or another, and it does seem that this is the missteps are already they're laid out as this is what's happening in the QAnon post, right? And you got these 1 and 2 year lineups that are happening. They weren't missteps; they were known that this was going to occur, and it was maneuvered through. This way I see it. So, either, it's an AI all the way, super genius, stable genius of Trump. But I think that, yeah, there were missteps along the way, but I think those things were seen and maneuvered around. But I get, by both sides, we get to the same point where we're at right now, is we're right there winning. And I'm not tired of winning yet.
Yeah. Well, I think we're really I think we've had a lot of moral victories along the way. I think there's been some victories behind the scenes that are important. But I think the real victory is when we're actually in positions where we can freely have access to whatever small amount or large amount of money or freedom or just fair market, right? Fair market value for the life we live, for the product that we create, for the ideas we have, right? The actual opportunity to bring something to market that you don't have to dance through hoops and you don't have to hear people say, well, this is the way the game is played. All these corrupt practices that are so common that we don't have to worry about breaking into, the movie industry just to have what is it, the Game of Shadows or Behind the Shadows? That's the new movie out, right? And this new documentary.
Oh yeah.
No one should ever have to deal with something like that. You should, I think with this 2 years ago, my daughter was we took her to trial because she wanted to be in commercials, she wanted to be on TV, and she's such a natural, right? She's great, and they loved her, right? They were ready to she has to go to classes, twice a week, and this is what's going to happen, and we were like, no, right? Because I squashed it because I'm like, I cannot have my daughter get even remotely too close to that and pulled away from us in any way for fear of what monsters they have created, horrifying things they've done, and somewhere in the midst of this, the parents somehow get involved, right? And they justify it. It's just accepted.
Yeah.
They accept that this is a lifestyle, that's the way it is. I mean, you see about Macaulay Culkin and all these other child stars,
right?
Corey Feldman. They're talking about how they were just passed around. Show up at a party and they were expected to go sleep with whoever, right? Be raped, be treated a certain kind of way. Can you imagine? I mean, no one should have to even imagine.
Yeah.
That should not be a standard for anyone to get ahead, right? And these things, we know, right? We know this is happening. We know that our water is being poisoned. They came out and openly admitted that, the coronavirus got into the chemtrails. Wait a minute.
Huh?
There's chemtrails? 3 years ago, you denied they existed. Now it's geoengineering. It's now all of a sudden you're admitting that you're committing a crime.
And how did it get in
by
there?
the way, it's worse than you think. There's also corona in there. Because they have to tell us what they're doing, right? So they had to bring that out too.
Yeah, that's why they want to porch out this testing, because it's going to be such a high rate. 80% of the people already have it, right? But it means nothing if you have a good immune system. It's just like having any other flu. Dr. Shiva, I didn't even know this, but we have trillions of different viruses in us. Trillions. Same thing
Right.
with bacterias, right? So we have all of these things already here. We're swimming in a sea of this stuff anyway. To find a particular one, or how when it's manufactured, right, to cause a certain problem because they designed it to cause a problem. That's the people the problem, the disease is the people that created it. The ones that patented it. There should not be a financial.
That's the truth. It's what is the purpose, right? What is the purpose that you have allowed this? Now, this is one thing I learned about in this process. You can't catch a virus. Now, I always thought viruses, they spread, right? Isn't that what we always say? Viruses spread, you catch them. People wearing masks, right, to stop the spread of the virus. But this guy from Australia comes out, he breaks it down. The same things you're talking about, right? A virus is RNA that's released from the cell because the cell has become toxic.
Yep.
And then your body's working to get it out, right? So it appears as sickness, right? You're sneezing and coughing and trying to get these things, you're pushing them out of your body. Which, by the way, for the most part, if you just go sweat it out, you'd probably be healthy in no time, right?
Yeah.
So
yes, a 6-pack and a jacuzzi works really well.
a 6-pack and a sauna. That is the Dan Gable method. You'll lose 6 pounds in no time.
Yeah.
So but you think about it, it's like, okay, well, here's the deal, right? You have these really simple principles that we are clearly being lied to. Our science is not what we thought. We don't know what's real, and we need to get to that. What's the reality?
Having a profit incentive on this type of patenting of viruses and things should be removed. There should be no sort of profit in basically doing that. Right? Oh, provide the vaccine. No, it has to be done free of charge. Sorry, no money. No, pure cost of cover the cost of materials to make medicine, like the hydrochloroquine, that great, but Trump's giving out for free. There cannot be any profit motive in these things, because then we have these stupid people designing a worldwide pandemic for their own profits to kill millions, billions of people.
Yep.
So this is stupidity.
It is stupidity, and that is what needs to go out. People need to know they have a place to stand. They should not have to worry about being arrested because they're going outside. This is where, and look, I want this to spread and be contagious. Is the idea of people assembling, coming together on Zoom meetings, whatever meeting they need to, pulling the actual assemblies together, doing the actual paperwork. We're doing it here in New York. We're going to put it out publicly as we do it. We had to modify documents today. But I'm telling you, the voice of the people is what changes everything. And the more people speak up and do it in a way that is documented, the power of the affidavit, right? The power of the post office, the power of public notice, right? We start to make these things public, and what happens is it starts to drown out the lies of the media, right? And then and I'll tell you, I'm not sure that the laws are exactly that they're breaking, but I'll tell you what, I've got them in my sights, right? We're going after the CDC. I want to go after the media. We're going after the sitting groups that are trying to impose these forced vaccination. And people are like, you can't say that. You can't target them. What are you talking about? This is a war that they are waging to kill your children.
Yeah.
They're trying to dumb us down, shorten our lifespan. They're trying to impose their will on us. I swear to God, how can we possibly sit back any longer and let that happen?
You're just a conspiracy theorist. You're just a conspiracy theorist. That's not happening. They're for our benefit, right?
What's awesome about being a conspiracy theorist right now is you're like, you're like the local reverend now.
Oh yeah, I get as I said, I get my ex-wife now calling me almost daily and asking, what's the update on the war? What's going on? What's the news? I said, all you got to do is watch my broadcast. But
So yeah, we're dropping bombs out here.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. So, but you know what? So, everybody, do this. Go to lawfulamerica.com, and if you want to get involved in the assembly in New York, you can write to A as in Apple, P as in Pear at nyassembly.info, and you can, send your interest to be part of the assembly here in New York. And if you want to be you want to set up the assembly in any other state, write an email to Walker, WALKER, at lawfulamerica.com, and Michelle Walker will get you on the path. And we are officially partnering with the National Assembly that is started in Michigan, and and we're gonna soon. It looks like we're gonna acknowledge President Trump.
One more thing is if you are in Massachusetts, please support Dr. Shiva in running for senator. And he needs your help right now. You need to sign his petition. Go online. You can find just Google him. You'll find him, and get his information mailed to you, right? So that you can have that. So you can, because he got screwed by his attorney on getting on the ballot, right? But he can get enough signatures and get it done that way. But it's going to be it's a harder route to go. But he needs your help. So if you're in Massachusetts, it doesn't help if you're not in Massachusetts. You're not a resident of Massachusetts. You got to be a resident. Don't just add your name to his list, for that purpose. If you want to donate, that's fine. But don't register if you're not, because that actually hurts. Because he might think he has enough people, but then they check the voter rolls, and then he doesn't have enough. He falls short. So
now the vice president, Michael Bean of Lawful America, he is from Massachusetts, and he has a relationship. Matter of fact, the first time I spoke to him, he was in the car with Dr. Shiva, and we're actually trying to get him to do an interview with us.
Oh yeah,
because I want to talk to him about the various things that he really is just a bank of knowledge. There's a couple of pieces I'd love to share as well. So I am absolutely for Dr. Shiva being a senator. We need more intelligent people that are conscious of what's going on, and they're not pretending like it doesn't exist so they can fit in and get ahead.
And they're not attorney, and they're not an attorney. And they're not
attorneys. And what the great thing is about Dr. Shiva and people like him is he has already been successful. He does not need anything. I like that, right? I like when people, they don't need anything, they can't be bought.
Right.
That is something we need. And we talk about that all the time. You can't buy us, right? Because there's two places where you can't be bought. When you've already willingly given up everything to pursue the truth, to pursue your dreams, you can't be bought. Or you've already accomplished everything that you want to accomplish in life, you can't be bought. Those are the two places where you exist, right? And that's where we need to be.
Yep. And so wherever those people are, we got to push them forward. We need to put those people into office. We have to remove those attorneys that are in there now. And it was really a pleasure to hear Dr. Shiva talking against it. He got upset about his attorney. He's like a 27-year friendship. He says, gone. You're not concerned. You're not concerned about that. You're concerned about your reputation. So you didn't do the right thing. You're out. So I appreciate that very much, right? So he started talking about the point of what attorneys are. He said they're not beholden to the people. They're beholden to the British Crown.
Yep.
The British Bar Association. Even the American Bar Association is basically just a stand-in for the British Bar Association.
If we could just get back to this now, everyone, even in these sovereign groups, they always go back to like these different groups that are trying to destroy the republic, right? They often go back to the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta is when, that's from England, right? When the king signed under duress. And I can acknowledge the validity of that document, but here in the U.S., we the people, right? We the people, that idea of the sovereignty lying in the hands of the people, not a hierarchy above us, not a royalty outside of us, not a God that exists outside of us, but right within the people. That right that we are born with, the same energy that makes our heart beat and our lungs breathe, the involuntary functions of all we are, that power that is imbued in all of us from birth. We didn't even understand that until the Iroquois taught it to us here in the States. So when Europeans came in, they were taught the idea of how to live free, right? When the U.S., when the Republic was established, that was the very beginning. The first sovereign nation to acknowledge them was the Iroquois. I mean, that is profound if we could just embrace and realize the power of that, right? And get away from any control of any crown, right? Like Corona means crown,
Right.
It means crown.
Reinforcing, and it's all about death. Keep 6 feet apart. I really believe that Thomas hit it on that one, right? So they want us 6 feet apart. It's symbolic.
Absolutely.
It's energetic, right? And it's causing depression, right? Because we need to touch each other, hug each other, shake hands.
Yes. Human contact is just essential for survival. We just do. You just need to, like. I think about this all the time with my kids. I always force my daughter to hold my hand, right? And part of it is to keep her safe, so I know where she is. The other part is I just like, how long am I going to be able to hold my daughter's hand? I think about this. My daughter will come in and she just wants to be next to me. She'll just lay on top of me and watch her iPad, and I don't care where I am, and I don't care what I'm doing. I'm like just that connection, right?
Yeah.
We need to be connected.
Yeah.
Right? It's just how we are, right? It's essential. So, this whole idea though of sovereignty and the strength of our freedom of human nature, the natural law, right? I don't even like the term common law anymore,
Right.
because common law goes back to communism, right? It's all things common, right? And you have a hierarchy. Right? So what happens is you have a king that came down to the level of the commoners. It's common law, right? Now, we've cleaned it up and said it's all things common, but that still comes from England. But natural law is what's natural. It's natural for us to love our kids. It's natural for us to want to help each other. It's natural for us not to want to war against each other. Right? It's natural.
Well, I can accept this. I've always looked at them as the same thing: natural law, common law, right? That's because that's the way it was represented to me, and in the research I was shown, and I said, but I get it, right? I have no problem, focusing more on this. But I know that the nature's law, is the aspect of what is natural, what is physical in nature. It's like gravity. That's natural law.
It's natural law, right? Like if you want to break the law, then you have to learn how to fly, right? So,
yeah, you want to make a law that says, okay, you must float around, or you'll be fined.
Right, you must. Right.
Yeah, or you'll be fined. Right. So you're not floating. I'm giving you a fine. Well, you can't make that law because it's against nature.
Now, I will say this though. I have asked Kim this before, right? I've asked her a few times, and she's defined it a different way, but the one thing has never changed. I asked her, what are the laws that govern this planet, right? So you have at the top always, the highest law is natural law. From there, below that is sovereign law or draconian law, right? Or royal law, right? And then you have the statutory laws that we're used to, right? In that order. Now, there was a congressman today that came out and he supported President Trump in his treatment of black people, and he said that we have been under draconian laws for so long. Now, what he was saying is the truth, actually.
Yeah.
Because that is what they're operating by, draconian law.
Yeah.
Right? And you can't even hardly find that much about draconian law.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like, you keep what you kill.
Well, my ears perked up when I heard that. Right? Oh, okay. Recognition that there is draconian law. Yeah, you keep what you kill. You know, whatever you're getting, then you're whatever you kill, you keep.
Right. So
You know, eye for an
you know
eye.
it's right. So they operate this way, and it is so obvious right now. But these jackasses are trying to file new orders of impeachment right now in the midst of a freaking pandemic. Get your priorities straight. Not only should they not be reelected, they should be
Jail.
literally pushed out of office. They should,
Yeah.
like every state with one of these. I mean, California, my God, the California people, please, y'all need to stand together strong. Now, I will say, we had a meeting today working on to that end, and I'll tell you, they're way ahead of a lot of states. They're ready to go. I bet you there is somebody that'll be up and running in a week. Now, there's a grand jury already assembled in Michigan, and there's one in Florida, and a few other places. And we're in a bit of a race to see who can get the grand jury up and running. I'm telling you, in New York, I am determined to get that grand jury up and operating as soon as possible. The right way, of course, the right way. But I am determined to get that up and running because it is so important. There's so many things going on. And New York is the epicenter, right? New York, that's what they keep saying. It's the epicenter of the pandemic. It's also where the president's from. Now, what if that's true? You know, we can acknowledge the president. I mean, what a great honor, to be honest, to be part of that, to be able to acknowledge, you know, and restore the republic, do something that people have been trying to do forever.
Yep.
So, I'm for it.
Well, we're
up with the people.
Yeah, we're already there. It's just take those next steps. Get Trump accepting it, and I mean, it's how it spreads from there. I mean, I would just hope that he would just go ahead, and I want it to happen faster, right? I'm ready. I want it to be, just like you, Tank. I get done waiting, right? So it has to be now. I guess pick these people up, put them in jail, and just and tell people, listen, this pandemic was all them, it was a hoax, and we pick up the media, throw them in the same prison with all of them at this point, because the evidence is there, right?
Yeah, I really am not the idea that we should continue to play these games to protect the consciousness of the people. I think we are past that point. I think right now you have people locked in their homes. Now, they're locked in their homes, and we're afraid to shock those people. Who exactly has been telling us that?
Right.
Because you really got to question that theory now, right? Is that potentially how you keep the masses at bay, right? Because Kim did say this about fluoride today, that the fluoride was released in Africa to calm the masses, right? To get a more docile group, right? So this is a common practice. Right now, everybody's at home. They just told us to stay home, put up plastic, wear masks, so you don't die. We all, okay, stay home. I mean, it's in my own house, to me, 2 weeks to finally be proven out right, that everything I was saying was right. But every single word I said got challenged. I'm like, but look what's happening. Right. Here's the evidence.
Yeah.
I mean, it got so bad, they didn't even have to present evidence to us. Right? They put Dr. Simulation there, Colleen Smith, put her out in the hospital. Oh, it's so bad. They showed a couple of hospital beds with feet and doctors with masks on, and everybody panicked. Oh my gosh, it's tragic. Come on, enough already.
Yeah. Hey, I got a couple more things we can go show. Or we are at an hour though.
Yeah, please.
But a little over.
Go ahead. We got time.
All right. So this one is Glenn Beck. Let's listen to him for a few minutes.
Here are the numbers. 1.8 million, up from 1.6 million confirmed cases worldwide. Deaths worldwide, 114,000, up from 96,000. Total confirmed recovered, up about 80,000. The United States has 560,000 confirmed cases and 22,000 deaths. That's quite a jump. About 100,000 confirmed cases since Friday, and a jump of about 6,000 on Friday as well. The U.S. now leads the world in both cases and deaths from COVID-19. We now account for 30% of all confirmed cases, 20% of confirmed deaths globally. For the first time in all of U.S. history, all 50 states are now declared disaster zones. This is why everything is overwhelmed. This has never happened before. Should we cue the fat lady on the free market system? The U.S. Federal Reserve is now purchasing approximately $625 billion per week in U.S. Treasury bonds, U.S. municipal bonds, and corporate bonds. So they're buying stocks, your city, and they're buying Treasury bonds. $625 billion per week.
Just to pointing out something. When he says that the Fed is buying it, the Fed is financing it. They're printing the money for it. But it's under these NGOs that are set up by the Treasury. So they're under the control of the Treasury.
So now that's an interesting. This is not true. Okay, this is not happening. The NGO process. There's something to that Kim mentioned. The other day on a call, she was asking about it. You know, what is this NGO? You know,
Non-governmental organization.
So it makes me wonder if Kim duped them all and somehow set up an NGO that appears to be operating under their control.
Well, maybe. So let's go about another minute, and because he's going to get one point, which is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, go ahead.
2 trillion every 2 weeks. I don't know. Sounds like a problem. At that rate of spend, the Federal Reserve will own all outstanding U.S. public debt, federal and local debt, by September or October of this year. Let me say that again. The Federal Reserve will own all outstanding U.S. public debt, federal and local debt, by September of this year. It will own all U.S. private and corporate debt by December.
We don't need to go any further. So that right there, just say, if you want to basically say, well, who owns all the debt, right? It goes to the Treasury. It's going to the Fed, right? They're owning the debt because they're printing the money and they're lending it to someone who's owned to the U.S. Treasury, and they're printing it up. But now they're in this stage of actually pulling the Federal Reserve into the Treasury. They haven't done it yet. They just kind of enslaved it at the moment. So when they own everything, all the debt, all the stocks, all the bonds, all the companies on Wall Street, who's then in control? Who owns it? It's the U.S. people. Well, okay, yeah, I get it, but
No. Well, it's just interesting. I just realized. I guess I'm a little slow on the uptake, but I was just listening to Kim talk about this, not this exact thing, but talking about how the money comes in, how new money comes in, right? How it transfers in, then there's a, it hits the Federal Reserve, and the individual we were talking to was saying, like, well, it has to go back to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has to approve it. And everybody's waiting for the Fed window to open. They always talk about this, right?
Right.
And it hasn't opened in 10 years, right? So more than that. So what they're looking for is is a code that releases basically an allocation number, for currency or whatever, so that things can be paid for. Well, Kim is the one that actually issues that code. Now, I mean, this is how it works. So, if all of this is if it's actually being bought, if that's true, now I know that
It's
there's
all.
been
It's
a
all.
lot of activity.
It's all. I'm sure it's all super notes, all like rehashed numbers, but it's like the system feeding on itself. But what's happened is they've directed the flow of the ownership of all of the companies. The way I see it is, it's actually acquiring all of the companies. Now,
Well,
yeah, this is
Yeah.
This is, you're talking about, how do you break up, the 150 major corporations that rule the world, right? If you buy them up, right, and put them under your control, you could replace all the people on the board.
hmm
So you have all these interlocking, board members that that have their secret society stuff that's going on, and they're directing how things are going to go. So this is the war, right? So this is part of the battle plans. I'm setting what Kim's doing outside of this, because this is within the imaginary economy, right? That they're doing this, right? Because it's all funny money, but they've been built up on funny money for since the last 12 years. So they only know the funny money, and this inflation and deflating and inflating and deflating of the stock market, right, is now going to be channeling all of these things into one entity, the U.S. Treasury, and the debt is going to be held by the Fed, which will be then absorbed in, and then they'll just cancel the debt and say, "Oh, we own all of everything." That means that's how you take control of it. Now, if it's the people now benefit from it, and there's no need for taxation anymore because all of the profits made by these corporations now fund the government, hallelujah. That's one solution.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the ultimate plan, but this is what I'm seeing. When I'm hearing this, is what I'm putting in context. Glenn Beck is not putting it into the context that I'm putting it in. This is a
Right.
bad problem. Right. This is
actually, though, if we go back to the letter that was written to President Trump from Kim, that returns the power to print money back to the Treasury. It returns the land of Puerto Rico back to the Puerto Ricans. It returns Washington, D.C. back to the Republic. And it forgives any outstanding debt held by the Federal Reserve, because the Federal Reserve exists within the trust as well. So is it possible that what she's doing is forgiving all of this debt, right? Because we do have reports of that, right? With the college loans, like my own college loans, are gone. Could she have used this opportunity, to your point of plan, to forgive these debts, and then also at the same time empower the Treasury, the actual Department of the Treasury, which is not run by the Black Sun. I mean, there's 7 different departments, I guess, that are registered as the Treasury, right? But you take away the power from the corporations and you put it back in the hands of the people.
Yeah, that's what I think.
I mean,
I think that's why I see it.
Okay.
That's the way I see it. And that's why I said, sitting Kim aside, and there you have the perspective of Glenn Beck, right, where he sees this, and all the debt is going to be owned by the Fed, and he knows it's a private institution. He knows about the Soros and the rest of the gang that's doing bad things, and they're trying to enslave us into communism, right? That's his viewpoint, right? But considering that is occurring, but knowing a little bit more wider perspective on it, that this is a way of disarming this corporate monster by basically shaking it up at its roots, by its power structure, by the people that are in control, because they won't be able to control it. They will not be able to hold the seats that run those companies. So you can put good people into those positions.
Sure.
And then you can turn it
and
into...
you can completely redirect the function of these companies, right?
Right.
I mean, pharmaceutical companies can be, holistic, companies that actually care about people's health rather than farm companies that are farming humans, right, and controlling their lifespan. The same way that we take animals and we inject them with all types of things, they do the same thing with us.
Right.
Yeah.
Or we eliminate all these practices of poisoning the food and the air and the water and our children's and our psyche, and just take control of it. And this is a mechanism. How else do you take control over this entity, all these corporations around the world? How do you do it?
Yeah.
Right. This is what I see. I see this is a battle. This is on the front lines. Right. This is what they have to do. They have to take it over. The white hats,
Yeah.
the good guys, whatever you want to call it. We have to take over all of the corporations, all of the ones that are so seeded with this evil.
So, so obviously, look, the whole the deceived white hat movement and all this stuff. I just, I can't. I just know too much to.
I get it. I know.
Blindly support.
Look at the beige hats.
To your point,
the gray hats, whatever you want to call them.
yeah, but I think that's us.
Yeah.
If there's a force of good, it's the people.
Yes.
Right, because the people are the only ones who are going to fight for their own kids. Right. The people are the only ones who are going to fight for each other. The people who are in the grind, who've been through this, who can relate to what the people need. Right. And because eventually, I was talking to the president for the New York Assembly today, and she's really worked to help get good people in office, and even with them, they get in these positions, and their viewpoint, they're good people, they mean well, right? Like new candidates and stuff, right? They think their first course of action is protecting public health, the people, and she's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Your job is specifically to uphold the Constitution, right? I mean, that's her attitude. She goes, I'll take care of my own kids, right? I'll take care of my kids. We need to get people to stop looking for handouts, right? So, and that's what this, this socialist government that we basically, they call them social programs, but it's socialism. They've implemented socialism in the United States a long time ago. And we've gotten used to, the government pays for this, the government pays for that, right? And the more power we give them, the less independence we have, the less of a free nation we really are.
No. We're on this. Yeah, we're on this. We're on this road. We're there. We have a plan. It's unfolding, and I'm just trying to point out that just like I point out Glenn Beck against David Icke, right? They're saying the same thing from a different point of view. We're on the same road, on the same path, and we're making steps. We're moving forward. It's a wonderful time.
I agree.
It's a miraculous time.
Yeah,
thanks for everyone who's doing everything that you can out there. Everyone that's making the right choices. For those people that left the bad side, right, the evil, left it behind. Thank you, right? Convince the others that that are on this side to lay down their arms, jump ship. Get out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I'm excited. You know what?
Yeah.
I feel great about it.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Dan. I feel the momentum building behind, the people standing together. Everybody out there, remember, you are the government.
Yeah.
You're whatever that means. You are the assembly. You are the highest power and the highest force on the land, and the most feared entity. The scariest thing to those who are trying to kill and oppress us is an organized, informed public.
Yeah, it's up to you. It's up to us to create change.
Yes,
Plug.
indeed.
That's a plug.
That's right. All right, Dan.
All right.
I think that's we got it out there. So thank you so much as always.
Thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow. And everyone else, thank you for joining in, and please join us at here tomorrow and subscribe. Please share. It's really important that you share. Get likes in. They're important. It boosts us up since we've eliminated the shadow banning on YouTube. That's really good. There's still things that we need to expand this. We need to move forward. So give a little help. Share the videos. Make sure that they subscribe. All right. Until tomorrow.
Cool, we got it. All right, later.
Bye.